Gentlemen, life is unpredictable. It will test you, push you, and at times break you. But the measure of a man is not in how he avoids hardship, it is in how he endures, adapts and thrives despite it. Strength is not just of the body, but of the mind, the character, and the will. 1. Mastery over emotions. Control your temper, your fears, and your impulses. A man who is ruled by emotions is a man who is easily controlled. Strength is the ability to stay calm in chaos. 2. The art of endurance. Pain, failure, and setbacks are inevitable. The question is not if they will come, but how you will respond. Will you collapse, or will you stand, adapt, and move forward? 3. Disciplined thinking. Your mind must be your ally, not your enemy. Train it to question, to analyze, and to resist distraction. Focus and clarity are rare, and they are powerful. 4. The strength of silence. Not every battle requires your words. Learn when to speak and when to observe. Silence is a weapon, and a well-timed word carries more weight than 1,000 spoken in haste. 5. Self-reliance. No one is coming to save you. A man must know how to provide, to fix, to create. Dependency weakens. Strength comes from knowing you can stand alone if necessary. 6. The power of saying no. A man must have boundaries. He does not bend to every demand, nor does he live to please others. A firm no is often more valuable than 100 weak yeses. 7. The ability to walk away from a bad deal, a toxic relationship, or a wasted fight. Know when to leave. Clinging to what is broken only drains your strength. 8. Command over fear. Fear is natural, but it must never dictate your actions. Face what scares you. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important. 9. The willingness to learn. A man who thinks he knows everything is already lost. Keep your mind open. Read, listen, observe. Growth never stops. 10. Humility. Insomnia strength star without con is recklessness. True strength is quiet, not boastful. It is the man who needs not prove himself that holds the greatest power. 11. Resilience. In the face of rejection, you will hear no. You will be dismissed, overlooked, and doubted. Let it fuel you, not break you. A man persists. 12. Mastery over time. Time is your most valuable asset. Do not waste it on trivial pursuits or meaningless distractions. A man who commands his time commands his life. Emotions are a powerful force. They can inspire, motivate, and drive us to achieve greatness. But they can also deceive, mislead, and destroy. A man who does not control his emotions is like a ship without a rudder, tossed aimlessly by every wave and storm that comes his way. It is easy to react impulsively, to let anger dictate our words, or to allow fear to paralyze us. But true strength is found in mastering emotions rather than being mastered by them. To control one's emotions does not mean suppressing them. It does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means developing the discipline to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings. A man must understand his emotions, acknowledge them, and then decide how to act, not based on impulse, but on reason. When emotions take the driver's seat, logic and clarity take a back seat. And in the heat of the moment, a single misstep can lead to consequences that last a lifetime. Anger, for example, is one of the most dangerous emotions when left unchecked. It can make a man say things he does not mean, burn bridges he later regrets, and act in ways that damage his reputation. But anger, when controlled, becomes a source of power. It sharpens focus, fuels determination, and strengthens resolve. The key is not to let it explode recklessly, but to channel it into something productive. A man who allows anger to control him is a slave to his emotions, easily manipulated by those who know how to provoke him. But the man who remains calm, even when insulted, disrespected, or challenged, holds true power. Fear is another emotion that can dictate a man's actions if he allows it. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. These can paralyze even the strongest of men if left unchecked. Fear whispers that it is better to remain in comfort, to avoid risk, to stay silent instead of speaking up. But a man who controls his fear understands that it is merely an illusion. He feels it, acknowledges it, and then moves forward anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. The ability to act despite fear separates those who lead from those who follow. Sadness and disappointment are inevitable in life. A man will face setbacks, betrayals, and losses. In these moments, it is easy to drown in self-pity, to allow grief to consume one's spirit. But emotions, like waves, rise and fall. A disciplined man recognizes this and does not let sorrow define him. He grieves when necessary, but he does not let it cripple him. He understands that suffering is part of life, and instead of dwelling on what he cannot change, he focuses on what he can control: his response, his next move, his attitude. There is also the subtle danger of pleasure and excitement. A man who chases every thrill, every high, every fleeting desire soon finds himself at the mercy of his impulses. Lust, greed, and indulgence can be just as dangerous as anger and fear if they are allowed to dictate a man's actions. Discipline is required not just in moments of hardship, but also in times of abundance. The ability to say no to temptation, to delay gratification, and to remain focused on long-term goals is what separates the strong from the weak. Emotional control is not something that comes naturally. It is a skill that must be developed through patience, awareness, and self-discipline. It requires stepping back, observing one's own reactions, and training the mind to respond with thoughtfulness rather than instinct. It is the ability to take a breath before speaking, to pause before reacting, and to choose one's words and actions wisely. It is what allows a man to remain unshaken in the face of adversity, to lead with wisdom rather than impulse, and to navigate life with strength and purpose. Pain and hardship are unavoidable aspects of life. No man escapes them, no matter how strong, intelligent, or prepared he may be. Life is unpredictable, and at some point it will test every man's resolve through loss, failure, rejection, or suffering. Some experience hardship early, while others may face it later, but no one is immune. The question is not whether pain will come, but how one chooses to respond when it does. Endurance is not something given, it is a decision, a conscious effort to keep moving forward despite the weight of adversity. Some people allow pain to define them, seeing themselves as victims of their circumstances. They dwell on what has been lost, what has gone wrong, or what could have been different. This mindset weakens the spirit, trapping a man in a cycle of self-pity and helplessness. But there is another way. A man who endures does not deny the existence of pain. He simply refuses to let it break him. He accepts it as part of the journey and pushes through, knowing that every hardship endured strengthens him for the next battle. Pain is a teacher. It reveals weaknesses, exposes vulnerabilities, and forces a man to grow. A life without hardship creates weakness, complacency, and fragility. It is through struggle that resilience is built. A man who has never been tested cannot truly know his own strength. But a man who has suffered, who has been knocked down and still stands, carries a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken. He knows what he has endured, and because of that he fears nothing. Endurance is not about suppressing pain or pretending it does not exist. It is about acknowledging it without letting it take control. It is about understanding that suffering is temporary, that no storm lasts forever. Hardship may slow a man down, but it does not have to stop him. Each day that he chooses to move forward, no matter how small the progress, is a victory. Strength is not found in never falling, it is found in rising every time one does. There will be moments when quitting seems like the easiest option. The weight of failure, exhaustion, or disappointment will tempt a man to give up, to walk away, to accept defeat. But endurance is forged in these very moments, when everything inside screams for relief, yet the will refuses to break. Pushing through when it would be easier to surrender is what separates the strong from the weak. A man who chooses endurance does not allow pain to control his actions. He may feel exhaustion, sadness, or frustration, but he does not let these emotions dictate his choices. He moves forward with discipline, knowing that hardship is not the end but a passage to something greater. Every difficulty overcome adds to his strength, his wisdom, and his ability to handle whatever comes next. Pain is inevitable, but how a man responds to it is what defines him. Silence holds a power that few truly understand. In a world where people constantly seek to be heard, where noise fills every moment, silence becomes an advantage. A man who can control his tongue, who does not speak impulsively, and who knows when to withhold his words possesses a strength that cannot be easily matched. While others rush to express their opinions, react emotionally, or fill the air with meaningless chatter, the man who chooses silence observes, listens, and calculates his response. This patience and control give him an upper hand in almost every situation. Silence allows a man to maintain control over himself and others. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. They can be used against him, misunderstood, or regretted later. A man who speaks too much risks revealing his weaknesses, his fears, and his emotions. On the other hand, the man who remains silent leaves others uncertain, making them wonder what he is thinking, what he knows, and how he will act. This sense of mystery grants him an advantage. People respect those who do not feel the need to explain themselves at every turn. The ability to stay quiet, especially in difficult or tense situations, shows composure and confidence. There is also great wisdom in listening rather than speaking. A man who listens carefully gathers information, learns the intentions of others, and understands the full picture before making a decision. Many people speak before they think, saying things that reveal their ignorance or insecurity. But the man who remains silent takes in knowledge, allowing him to make informed choices. He does not waste energy arguing unnecessarily, nor does he react emotionally to provocation. Instead, he waits, observes, and when the moment is right, he speaks with purpose and impact. In conflict, silence can be a weapon. When emotions run high, people often expect an immediate reaction. They seek a response, hoping to provoke anger, frustration, or even fear. But a man who remains silent in these moments refuses to give away his power. He does not let his emotions dictate his actions. Instead, his silence forces others to question themselves, to feel uncertain, and to reconsider their approach. Often the most intimidating response is no response at all. A well-timed pause can shift the dynamics of an argument, creating discomfort for the other person while maintaining control over the situation. Silence also demonstrates discipline. Many people talk simply to fill the emptiness, to seek validation, or to mask their insecurities. A disciplined man does not speak unless he has something valuable to say. He understands that words should serve a purpose, not be used carelessly. This restraint makes his words more meaningful. When he does speak, people listen, because they know he does not waste words. His speech carries weight precisely because it is rare and deliberate. Silence is also a tool for self-mastery. In moments of frustration, anger, or disappointment, the first impulse is often to react. But by choosing silence, a man creates space between emotion and action. He gives himself time to think, to process, and to respond in a way that aligns with his values and intentions. He does not allow others to manipulate him into rash decisions or foolish words spoken in the heat of the moment. His silence becomes his armor, shielding him from regret and preserving his dignity. Ultimately, silence is not weakness, it is control. It is the ability to restrain the ego, to resist the urge for constant validation, and to remain unshaken in the face of adversity. In a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, the man who masters silence commands the greatest respect. Self-reliance is one of the greatest strengths a man can develop. To rely on oneself means to take responsibility for one's own life, choices, and circumstances without waiting for someone else to solve problems or provide solutions. A man who depends too much on others gives away his power, placing his fate in the hands of those who may not always have his best interests at heart. True freedom comes from knowing that no matter what happens, he has the ability to handle it. He does not fear uncertainty, because he trusts in his own skills, resourcefulness, and resilience. A man who is self-reliant does not wait for permission to take action. He does not need constant validation or reassurance from others. He makes his own decisions based on logic, experience, and personal values, rather than blindly following the crowd. Dependency weakens a man because it forces him to rely on external forces that are often unreliable. When a man becomes dependent, whether on people, institutions, or circumstances, he surrenders control. He lives at the mercy of others, unable to act freely because he is always waiting for guidance or support. Developing self-reliance requires discipline and effort. It is easier to rely on someone else for financial stability, for emotional support, or for decision-making. But easy paths rarely lead to strength. A self-reliant man learns to stand on his own, even when it is difficult. He builds skills that allow him to survive and thrive in any situation. He takes responsibility for his failures as well as his successes, never blaming others or making excuses. Every challenge he overcomes on his own strengthens him, while every act of dependency weakens or weakens an ability to act on his own. There is a difference between seeking help when needed and being dependent. No man exists in complete isolation. However, the difference lies in the mindset. A self-reliant man may seek knowledge, resources, or support, but he does so with the intention of learning and growing stronger, not with the expectation that others will always provide for him. He does not make a habit of relying on people to solve his problems. Instead, he views challenges as opportunities to develop new skills, to adapt and to prove to himself that he is capable. Dependency, on the other hand, creates weakness. A man who is constantly dependent on others for financial security, emotional stability, or decision-making becomes incapable of standing on his own. He lacks confidence, struggles to make choices without external input, and often feels trapped in situations he cannot control. He becomes vulnerable to manipulation because he fears losing the support he has come to rely on. His freedom is limited because he cannot act without someone else's approval or assistance. A self-reliant man understands that true freedom comes from independence. He earns his own money, makes his own choices, and takes responsibility for his own well-being. He does not wait for opportunities, he creates them. He does not fear being alone because he has built a strong foundation within himself. He knows that no matter what happens, he has the ability to survive and rebuild. This confidence allows him to walk away from toxic situations, stand firm in his beliefs, and navigate life with strength and purpose. There is great power in the ability to walk away. Many people remain stuck in situations, relationships, or commitments that drain them simply because they fear the unknown. They hold on out of habit, obligation, or misplaced loyalty, even when it is clear that staying does more harm than good. But a man who knows his worth does not waste time on what no longer serves him. He understands that walking away is not weakness, it is an act of self-respect and discipline. Life is full of distractions and demands, and not everything or everyone deserves a place in it. Some relationships, whether personal or professional, become toxic over time. A man must recognize when he is being undervalued, manipulated, or taken for granted. Holding on to such situations only diminishes his strength. Walking away does not mean avoiding challenges or refusing to work through difficulties. It means understanding when a situation no longer contributes to growth, peace, or progress. If something constantly drains energy rather than adding value, it is time to leave. The same applies to commitments that no longer align with a man's purpose. It is easy to stay in a job, a friendship, or a routine simply because it feels familiar. But familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. A man who is focused on his goals must constantly evaluate whether his choices bring him closer to or further from where he wants to be. If something no longer serves his vision, he must be willing to let it go. Walking away also requires overcoming fear. Fear of change, fear of disappointing others, fear of being alone. These keep people stuck. But fear is not a valid reason to remain in a situation that is holding a man back. Growth often requires discomfort, and letting go of what is comfortable but unfulfilling is part of that process. A man must trust that by leaving behind what does not serve him, he creates space for something better. Another important aspect of walking away is learning to recognize when an argument, conflict, or battle is not worth fighting. Not every challenge deserves a response, and not every fight is worth the effort. A man who knows when to disengage maintains his energy for battles that truly matter. Some people seek to provoke, manipulate, or drain his focus. The ability to remain calm, walk away, and refuse to engage in meaningless conflicts is a sign of strength, not weakness. A man's time and energy are his most valuable assets. Wasting them on people, habits, or situations that offer no growth is a mistake. It takes courage to step away from the familiar and choose the unknown, but it is necessary for progress. Walking away is not about quitting, it is about prioritizing what truly matters. A man who masters this skill moves through life with clarity, confidence, and purpose, never allowing himself to be trapped by what no longer serves him. Time is the most valuable resource a man has. Unlike money, possessions, or even physical strength, time cannot be regained once it is lost. Every second that passes is gone forever, and no amount of effort, regret, or desire can bring it back. This reality makes time the most precious asset, yet many people waste it without realizing its true worth. A man who understands the value of time treats it with the respect it deserves. He does not allow distractions, laziness, or meaningless pursuits to consume his days. Instead, he takes control of his time, using it with purpose, intention, and discipline. Many people live as though time is unlimited. They postpone their goals, delay their dreams, and waste hours on trivial activities, believing they will always have more time to do what matters. But life does not work that way. Time moves forward relentlessly, whether a man uses it wisely or not. The difference between success and failure, growth and stagnation, strength and weakness often comes down to how a man spends his time. Every choice, every action, and every moment contributes to the life he builds. Those who waste time end up regretting it, while those who use it well create lives of purpose and fulfillment. One of the greatest dangers to time is distraction. In today's world, it is easier than ever to waste hours on mindless entertainment, endless scrolling, or unnecessary conversations. Many people live in a constant state of distraction, never fully present, never fully engaged in what truly matters. A man who values his time does not allow these distractions to control him. He sets clear priorities and focuses on what will bring him closer to his goals. He does not let temporary pleasures take him away from long-term success. Another way time is often wasted is through procrastination. Many people convince themselves that they will start tomorrow, next week, or next year. They wait for the perfect moment, the right opportunity, or the ideal conditions. But the truth is, there is never a perfect time. Waiting only leads to missed opportunities and unfulfilled potential. A man who understands the value of time takes action now. He does not make excuses or allow fear to hold him back. He knows that time is always moving, and every moment spent waiting is a moment lost forever. Time is also wasted on things that do not contribute to growth. Some people spend years in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, or routines that keep them stagnant. They stay out of comfort, habit, or fear of change, but every day spent in the wrong place is a day that could have been used for something better. A wise man constantly evaluates his life, making sure his time is being spent on things that truly matter. If something no longer serves his growth, he has the courage to walk away and redirect his time toward what does. The most successful men in history have understood the value of time. They did not waste it on meaningless activities or let distractions take control. They prioritized, stayed disciplined, and made the most of every hour. A man's future is shaped by how he spends his time today. If he uses it wisely, he builds a life of strength, purpose, and fulfillment. But if he wastes it, he will one day look back with regret, wishing he had done more. The choice is his. Time cannot be reclaimed once it is gone. It is gone forever. The way a man spends his time defines the life he will live. Every moment is a choice to move forward or to remain stagnant, to build or to waste, to grow or to decline. Time is not promised, nor is it infinite. The days will pass whether they are used wisely or squandered carelessly. A man who understands this truth does not take time for granted. He treats each day as an opportunity to learn, improve, and pursue what truly matters. In the end, the difference between a life of fulfillment and a life of regret comes down to one thing: how time was spent. Choose wisely, because once it is gone, it never returns.